Sean. Hello, everybody. ELR 360 Live back with you to talk everything. Everybody loves Raymond. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about a production week for the episode. For those of you that guessed, Liars. You are correct. That is Liars, I believe from season 8. Somebody can tell. Hello, Bobby. Hello, Donnell. Hello, all Raymond fans. For those of you that have never joined, this is Tom Caltabiano. I was a writer on Everybody Loves Raymond. I took many behind-the-scenes photos. We published a book called Everybody Loves Raymond, Our Family Album. I'm here every week talking about everything that I can share with you about Everybody Loves Raymond. We have a guest usually every other week. I've been traveling a lot, so that's why I have not had a guest, but we will be back with guests. Now, season 8. Yes, let me say hello to all these people who I've missed, all of our great fans. Hello, Teresa in Chicago. For those of you, if you get a chance, go to Tefanos in Chicago, right? I look forward to visiting. And I think perhaps Phil Rosenthal, who has a book coming out, Phil will hopefully join us. He will be in Chicago, I think, on his book tour. You can check out, he has a book to go along with his Netflix series, Somebody Feed Phil. I was in the Seoul, Korea episode, if you get a chance. Okay, so a lot of questions. By the way, I really appreciate all of your comments. I at least I try and answer any pending questions, or if I know that I will be on, I will try and answer them all. Now, I posted a video of the neighborhood of where Ray and Deborah's house is located, at least the exterior. So just to clear up any confusion, those exteriors were established for the pilot. So if you watch the pilot, you'll see the exteriors of those houses. I think it wasn't until season 3 that we had to name the town they lived in. And I think one of the writer's relatives or aunts lived in Lynbrook. Now, if you're in the UK, or if you're down in Australia, or in India, the geography is probably not that important, and nor was it that important for the storylines. But if you live on Long Island, then you know how far Lynbrook is from the exteriors, and so you can sometimes do the math of, okay, in the checkbook episode, Robert is a New York City policeman, but they're in Lynbrook, so is he out? So there can be, and these are, Phil used to say, if the audience is worried about something on the set or something about mechanics of the show, then we have a very boring show. Having said that, there's a point where you can't push it too far. In other words, you can't have a lemon tree growing in Ray's yard, because people will be like, I don't think lemons grow. So there's a point where you want to be technically accurate, but there's also a point where you go, okay, if they're looking at something on the set or getting hung up on that, then we have a very boring show. Okay. Let me read through some of your comments. But those houses are across the street from each other. I think I'm probably the only one from the show who has been there. Excuse me. Frog in my throat. Here we go. Here's I couldn't find my Phil mug. My Phil mug is somewhere, so I have to use this guy. This is an official Johnny Carson mug taken. Statute of limitations are worn off. Taken by Tony DeSena from the set of The Tonight Show. So, and I'm hoping we will have our mugs soon, our first test mugs that will be for sale. Okay, let me scroll back, and so I don't miss these questions, these answers. So yes, just so you know, it's a neighborhood in the United States in Long Island. Long Island is an island that extends from Manhattan. It's a little bit east of Manhattan. And it's a beautiful neighborhood. And for me, driving up on that was very bizarre to see, because it made it feel all the more real, seeing that there are 2 real homes there. And that is in, again, Merrick, Long Island, and Lynbrook is a little bit more towards Manhattan. I did not knock on the door, nor would I recommend it. Maybe I would do it if I had Ray with me, because that makes it a little bit easier to prove that you actually know somebody that has an association with the house, with those homes. And those are fairly expensive homes. Yes, Robert's apartment location, we will try and find that. Now, I saw that the King of Queens location, there's a story online about somebody tracking down the King of Queens location, which is actually in New Jersey, right around the corner from where I used to live in Palisades Park with two other comedians. It's bizarre, but they had a much harder time. Of course, I think, I guess the internet was going. We tend to take for granted, some people take for granted, how easy it is to search things. But whoever went on that search really had to go back to the original source material of stock footage. And that's why the Ray and Deborah and Frank and Marie house was probably not seen by anybody associated with the show. They probably went through a library of whoever that was, CBS production maybe, or because HBO wouldn't have that. But somebody had stock footage, they call it. And somebody said, this looks perfect. These are two homes. Let's do that. That would be my guess, because they already had the houses for the pilot, as I say. And again, the pilot, the way a pilot works is it's written in the fall. It's shot in the spring. They cut that pilot and then it airs in the fall again. Nobody knows what is going to air or not going to air when you shoot that pilot. So it's not like Phil Rosenthal and Ray said, hey, let's drive around Long Island and let's look for the perfect house exterior. Hello, Leo. You are in Vegas. You should go to Brad Garrett's Comedy Club, the new club, newly relocated club, which is great. It's great. I don't know when Brad is performing. I don't know if he's performing this week, but he is a joy to watch. Not exactly the Robert character, so the heads up there, but exceptionally funny. Hello, New Hampshire. Have your leaves turned? Is that what your icon is? Yes. Your emojis. Hello, Dallas. Hello, everybody. Okay. The Liars episode, an excellent episode, late in the series, and I think that's one thing that you will hear about Errol's Raymond, because Ray and Phil provided this consistency of the show, and most of the writers were there from the beginning to end. The show never dipped in quality. And Liars, written by Tucker Cawley, who wrote many, many, many of fan favorite episodes, including Lucky Suit and the Baggage episode, is just a really great episode. I watched it this morning and I loved it, and I was surprised. I forgot completely that Ray's daughter in real life, Allie, plays Molly. Ali Romano plays Molly, and Ali was the perfect person to play that, not only because she's related to the boss, but in real life, and people have said to Ray, like, hey, your wife is Sicilian, you're Italian from like Bari, his father was from Bari, why do you have a blonde daughter? And I guess it's a recessive gene. Ray makes the joke that he doesn't know, but his cable guy is blonde, and he's been getting free cable. That's a joke he would make 25 years ago. Hello, Australia. Good day. Hello, Gil. All right. Oh, yes. Happy Thanksgiving in Canada. Is Thanksgiving tomorrow, or is it today in Canada? I think we also have a national holiday. Okay. Here, let's talk about the production week, because I posted that photo on Facebook, I believe, and when I say that photo, I mean this photo. Again, it's backwards for those of you who are new to Instagram. I'm holding up a photo. I know it's not grabbing focus, but people are like, who are all these people standing there watching? So let's go through a production week, which takes... on most sitcoms, it's 5 days. And I think even on I Love Lucy, they got it down to 4 days, which is a very short time to make a show. But the week kicks off. The week kicks off with something called a table read. This is the table read. When I took that photo, I was sitting next to Peter Boyle. You can see, and again, I don't know how close it can focus. That is the table read. And actually, before the table read, about a half hour before the table read, is something called the production read, which is whoever wrote the script. So in this case, Tucker Cawley is sitting at a table. The cast is not there, but the production people are there. So let me see if I can see. I couldn't post them all because Instagram only lets me post 10 photos at a time. So Tucker, the writer, would sit there. All of the production people would be sitting there, meaning the props department, wardrobe department, the assistant director, Randy, the first AD, first assistant director, Randy, is sitting there. And you read through the script from beginning to end, but it's not the actors. It's almost the worst thing you can possibly hear if you've written a script, because the first AD will say, okay, on page 1, Deborah enters, and it says she's holding an umbrella. And then the props department goes, okay, or wardrobe, I don't know which one that falls under. They go, okay, is the umbrella, what color is the umbrella need to be? And does it have to be wet? And does it, all of these details which have to be done, which if they're not done correctly, people in, America at that time sit there and watch and go, hey, I noticed that it's a rainstorm. And when she entered, the umbrella was completely dry. So all of those boring details happen. Here we go. Here is, this is the pre-production meeting. That is Tucker Cawley, who I'm sitting next to. And we are going through this. They are going to the script. I'm just there taking pictures, but any decisions that have to be made, that is Tucker. And then it looks like Tucker might have enjoyed a banana. There's Phil looking at me. And that's Ken, the director, Ken Shapiro, behind Phil. And so they go through the script, and it's so terrible to hear because you hear, okay, page 2, they're talking, page 3, they're talking, page 4, they're talking. Okay, a garage door. Oh, a VCR gets broken. Okay, what is going to be put into that VCR? A snake. Okay, how big is that snake going to be? And so all of those details are covered in that meeting. And then you go to the end, and you get to the end, and it feels excruciating long because not one funny thing has been said during that entire process. And so now you have a little bit of break as the cast comes down, and they filter down. So again, here is Ray. You can see Ray. You can see Peter. Doris is taking a drink in the distance there. Let's see how close that'll focus. So that's perfectly out of focus. So there, though, you can see Steve Scrovan, Phil in the middle, Tucker on the right, and other writers are behind, and Randy, the first AD, is behind. That's a post-production supervisor. And again, there's the cast. So now, Phil will announce, okay, we're reading, this table read. There's small talk. The cast comes in. The director will I think read the stage directions, if I can remember correctly. So it'll say, okay, liars. Ray is sitting at the kitchen table. Marie enters, and then boom, Doris is reading her lines, and Ray is reading his lines, and all of a sudden, oh, this is a funny, enjoyable show all of a sudden, versus how terrible it felt before. When you were just going, talking, there's talking, and then Marie comes in. So now you watch that table read, and that is timed. Sorry, my iPad keeps slipping. Let's see if we can adjust it here. There's someone there that keeps time as you're going through the run-through. So that person, in our case, for the most part, was someone named Ellen Halpin. And so you go through the entire table read, and then at the very end, you get big laughs. Okay, great. Then there's a small pause. The actors get up and they can leave. I'm hesitating because sometimes Phil will have notes, but Ellen will have a timer. Ellen Halpin will have a timer. She'll say, the total time is 24 minutes and 40 seconds. And so it'll be like, we are 2 minutes and 40 seconds over. Okay. And if that's not bad, but if it's like, we're 8 minutes over, then you know you have a terrible, what's known as you have to include a laugh spread. But even though that might sound good, like, well, we'll just shoot it and see what happens. If you have to deliver the show to 22 minutes and 45 seconds, you don't want to shoot 7 minutes of material that cannot be used. That usually is a sign that there's different, I don't want to cast aspersions, but if you really are like Phil and Ray, who know precisely what they want, then you try and bring it into time. Because on show night, the laughs that are going to come from the audience it's going to be huge. It's going to be giant laughs, and that's called the laugh spread. So sometimes if you're ever watching Home Alone, it's late at night, you're just watching this, and you're listening to this monstrous laugh and thinking, okay, come on, we get it, it's funny. Well, that's a real laugh, and often Phil would have to turn down the laugh. The real recorded laugh, you'd have to truncate it a little bit, because otherwise you're sitting at home going, okay, we get it, let's get on with the laugh. Okay, so now, after they've figured out the time, there's a gathering, and everybody, there we go. There is Phil talking. The people on, I can't tell, the people on the opposite side of Ray, that's a CBS person and an HBO person and a couple of other HBO people. There's no one there from David Letterman's company, Worldwide Pants, at that point. Ken Shapiro is right there. Sorry, don't want to make everyone seasick. Ken Shapiro is right there. Stu Smiley, if you see the credit, executive producer Stu Smiley, he's at the head of the table there next to Tucker. You can see another HBO person and writers discussing. And so Phil is saying, to those people. So they'll come up afterwards and they'll give their notes. So what Phil is doing is listening to their notes and then saying, okay, yes, great note, or we'll look at that, or okay, this is what I think we're going to do. And so at this point in the show, season 8, it was a well-oiled machine, so they kind of everybody trusted each other, meaning if you're on a show that's not a hit show and it's the very beginning, there's oftentimes a lot of people are like, we have to make this better, we have to fix this, and there's a whole bunch of cooks in the kitchen, and it can be problematic. On Raymond, at this point, the show has already won many Emmys, and the executives aren't going to come in and say, Phil, you have to do this, because Phil's already proven that he knows what he is doing. However, having said that, these guys are great because they're outside eyes. And so you want them to catch something that you have missed. For example, there was a time in an episode called The Surprise Party, and we got a lot of feedback after it aired that people didn't like that Robert blew the surprise, okay? And so what you're looking for notes is things that you, because you're too close to the script and you're filling in all the blanks and you're not objective, let's say, you want that from the notes taking. Okay, so now we're still on the first day. So now we've seen the run through the notes. Now the writers go back, Phil goes back, we sit in the writer's room and we fix anything that didn't seem to be working, and the cast rehearses. So on other shows, like I think on Mom, when it was on, and other and even Raymond initially, many times they would have the table read, the cast would rehearse a little bit and then they'd go home. And so they didn't really work a long day the first day. But by working a long day the first day, they were able to compress the work week to 4 days. So now the next step is in the afternoon, we come down, the writers come down, and there is a run through. And sometimes in the writer's room, there will be they'll get a call from the stage, and the director will say, hey, Phil, can you take a look at this? We're having trouble with this, or something like that. A specific request for Phil to look at it. So it's a well-oiled machine where hopefully one hand is washing the other, and I'm scrolling through a picture of the writer's room. It's from, here we go, let's see, yes. So this is not that first day, but this is the writer's room. So there you go. There you see. I'm standing behind Phil when I took this photo. You see Ray sitting there. You see Steve Meyer, the writer's assistant, and then all the other writers at the table. You can see my cameras sitting there. with coffee cups. That is one of my my Nikon film days, my Nikon F5 with a 70 to 200 lens for those photography geeks who are interested in that sort of thing. So, now the end of the first day still. The writers go down and watch a run-through, okay? That's called a producer's run-through. And we'll watch the entire show from beginning to end, and we'll watch each scene. And then, after each scene, I'm trying to remember correctly, there's a notes session. So, the reason I'm even hesitating is okay, so that's what it is. There's notes after each session, after each scene on that day, okay? And Phil will give notes and talk to the director and obviously talk to the cast and go over each scene and try and correct anything that he thinks can be tweaked and work out all of those details. So this is not this again here. This is there's the cast and there is Phil sitting there. We'll get back to that photo. Okay, so Phil will give notes for all that. Then after that, the actors go home. So after the end of each scene. So let's say Ray's like, Dr. Scrubby Brush has that thing. Maybe the note is, Ray, just slam it with indignation into the sink and like those type of notes. That's done. The writers go back to the writer's room and rewrite now anything that doesn't work. And when I say rewrite, it's usually small tweaking on Everest Raymond. On other shows, sometimes they would throw out entire scenes and redo the scenes. On Everest Raymond, that never happened. So it would be little tweaks like let's get rid of this couplet, let's get rid of these two lines, etc. What about that? Then the script is done. The writers go home. A new copy of the script is messengered to the house of all of the actors, and then they go in the next morning, they rehearse. Then, this leads to the next, hello everybody, sorry. For those of you who just joined, this is Tom Caltabiano. We're talking about behind the scenes of how a show is made, a week in the show of the episode Liars. And I'm taking you from beginning to end, and I hope it's somewhat intriguing of how it actually works. Okay, let me go back. So we're beginning of day 2 now. That's a lot of work and a lot of talking. Let me go back and see any questions that I've missed. These are great. Okay. Going back. Hello. Yes, Johnny Carson. Yes, S-Pen, ESPN. I watched that joke. The reference there is Marie doesn't know how you say ESPN, showing that she's not with it and young. And I wonder how long will ESPN be around? And there's a decision you have to make. Phil didn't want to do any current references because it would be dated very quickly, but there's a point where an event is life, like I think is so big that you can use it. So I think you can say Shakespeare. He's not going away. ESPN, we'll see, but there's certain references that you can say because you're like, okay, well that's if they are no longer around, then maybe we have bigger fish to fry because the human race is not around. Yes, I never knew the King and Queen's house is in New Jersey. Yes, I did not either until last week. The exterior of Robert's apartment definitely doesn't look New York. Oh, yes. But it looks gigantic, right? It feels like perhaps Miami or somewhere in Poland. Okay. Happy, yes, Thanksgiving Eve, yes, to our Canadian northern brothers. And a little side note, Ray, way before I was Raymond, Ray used to tour a lot in Canada. And he always loved performing in Canada. And I remember we performed at a club in Montreal, and they booked Ray as the Italian Seinfeld. Now, this was when Seinfeld was already a hit, and Ray was a complete unknown. And who knew that it would turn out to be correct. Like the SNL table read. Yes, the table read. Sorry, did I miss the SNL? Yes, everything usually has a table read. Dramas, not as much. Hello, Winkler, Manitoba, Canada. So Donnell, this is a great one. From the Liars episode, I noticed this joke today. Marie, you think I was born yesterday? Frank, anyone? Cracks me up every time, anytime. So that joke, which is just Frank, he's not even saying a joke, even though it's a big laugh. That I don't think you could have done that joke or gotten as big a response in season 1. So Frank could have said something insulting, but instead he's just saying, okay, that insult writes itself. Marie saying, you think I was born yesterday? All right. How long time production table read? Yeah, the table read, Bobby, sorry. I know that you wrote this a while ago. It's really 22, 23, 24 minutes. We never had a 30-minute thing. Yes, we should have Phil in a live stream again. Yes. Phil will come on again. Phil's book is coming out. So October 18th, I think his new season on Netflix, Somebody Feed Phil, and his book will come out. So I will see if I can have Phil as a guest before then or after then. Bobby, is it extra material that would create a 2-part episode? No. Are there funny jokes that you hate to not be heard? Yes, but just to go back for clarity, by the time you get to the table read, that's a script that Phil might have approved 2 months earlier. So that script has been worked on, breaking the idea, doing the script, going over the script in the writer's room, making sure every line is perfect. It might be 2 months of work to get that one script done. So very seldom are there too many. Is there something that could be a 2-parter? And I don't know that the network like that as much. Were there many disagreements to suggested script changes? That it depends what you're talking about. Excellent question, Karen. For a script change, you generally at the table read, unlike a drama, if something doesn't get a laugh or is confusing, because there is no laughter, and so that it has to be fixed. So if someone from the stage, if the director calls down, which they generally won't, because what they'll do is you come down for the run through and the director doesn't want to make extra work for the writers. And so usually the director knows, okay, they're going to come down and they're going to see this doesn't get a laugh, or I'm having trouble getting a laugh, or Doris has trouble saying this line. So it'll be somewhat self-evident. So the suggestions that come down from the stage were very, very rare, and they would be small things. So it wouldn't be like, we don't like this scene. We don't, can we not do this? That just wouldn't happen. Great questions scrolling through. Did we ever consider giving Amy's house in Pennsylvania an exterior? Interesting. I don't know. Was there, for those of you that have watched the show, much more than we've never established a exterior for their house? That would be interesting. Phil's wife in real life is Monica, who played Amy on the series, and she in real life is from Pennsylvania. What do I think of the Frasier reboot being greenlit by Paramount this week? Does that get palms hitching for an ELR reboot? For those of you that don't know, Frasier, if in the international audience, if you don't get Frasier, it was a giant hit here. It was a spin-off with Kelsey Grammer from the show Cheers. And spin-offs don't always do that well, but Frasier did extremely well. Cheers was an amazingly funny hit that won tons and tons of Emmys, and then Frasier, the one character who was not that big in the series, spun off and it became a giant hit again. And even when we were starting, whenever Everett Raymond was starting, David Hyde Pierce would win the Emmy all the time for Best Supporting Actor, and Frasier, I think, won many times. We didn't think we'd ever win an Emmy because Frasier was so good. So they're going to do it again on Paramount Plus. I don't know. The father is no longer with us, so I don't know. I know, the idea of doing Everett Raymond again, as because we love the show so much. Of course, every show that you want, that you love, you wish it could come back. I know Seinfeld did that Super Bowl commercial, and when George and Jerry are sitting there in the diner talking, you're right back into it, and you really wish they could just pick up the show again. But it's a tough one for Evers Raymond because Ray is working. Everybody has these projects that are going on, so it would have to be the actors. And you don't have Frank and Marie, and Marie really drove the show. She was coming from love, the evil villain. Any fun audience interaction, memory stories? Yes. Well, that's a great question. I got to get back to the production week. But the audience was an integral part of the show because after 4 days of rehearsal, when the audience came in, it would energize the actors when they would say their lines because the audience is hearing them for the first time and they're howling. And when you go through the production week, by the fourth time you're hearing a joke, for us, the writers, we've heard it so many times. And then by the end of the week, you're just like, are these even funny anymore? So then the audience loads in, and now all of a sudden you have 200 people who love the characters hearing these lines for the first time, and they are laughing hysterically. Okay, let's get back to the production week. Day two. Day two, the producers have a run-through towards the end of the day, and they combine it with the network. So HBO, the network is CBS. So there's a representative from CBS, there's one or two, there's a representative from HBO, and initially David Letterman's company was there also every week. But I think they stopped coming eventually. Worldwide Pants was his production company, and it's not like it was CBS, which is a giant network. They just had very few people working for them, and at that point, it was not. The show was kind of running on its own. So that picture I posted of this. So this is all these people standing there are the network people, the writers, and some of the producers. So those are writers and the network people. As I peer under my phone, yes, that angle also. Let's see, tough grabbing exposure. And then Elizabeth Herring, you can see, is wearing the hat. She is dialogue coach. So anybody forgets a line. So all those people, for the most part, and also there's some stand-ins there. So now you do that run through, and then and that you do from beginning to end. So you're seeing the episode from beginning to end, and then at the end there's more notes from the director, from the network, and then I'm scrolling through. Great shots. There's more notes. Then they go away, the network executives. They say, this is what we think. Then Phil sits down with the cast and goes through every single scene with notes that he's giving while he's watching to the writer's assistant, and he'll be like, okay, tell Deborah has to be more this here, Ray has to be more this here, etc. And then Phil will sit there, and that session, I'm scrolling through, here we go, that is this. So you can see Phil is sitting there, his daughter Lily is on his lap, Ken Shapiro, the director, is sitting there, and now Phil will go through every scene, and these are not nearly as big a notes as on the first day when you're trying to figure out what's known as blocking, where everybody's standing, etc. So there you'll see everybody. They should be pink scripts, and that might take 30 minutes. I'm sitting there. All the writers have already gone back to the writer's room, and they're already working on tweaking any lines that don't work. Somebody else will be running the room and waiting for Phil to come down from the stage. So I would be late going back to the writer's room because I would take photographs like those. So now that is the end of, the end of that day. Now we're at the next day where they would do pre-shoots, blocking, camera day, etc. And that, I posted the picture. For those of you that didn't, if you look at the end of my post, you'll see that, which breaks down. That's backwards and blurry, so I wouldn't even try and read that. Now, show day. Show day, there is a run-through early in the morning, and then Phil comes down, the writer, we all come down, we watch the run-through, and then anything that needs tweaking that day, and that's this. So there's you can see Ray, Phil, Mike Royce, writers all watching the run-through on show day. I think those scripts are all yellow. Yes, scripts are all yellow. And so here is also Phil, Tucker. That's Tucker talking to, there's Patty, there's Elizabeth Herring behind, etc. So now, this is the morning of show day. There's a lot of rehearsal, everybody, to get, there's a little shot of Patty with Simon Tuke, who was the head of wardrobe in the wardrobe department. I must have grabbed that shot to try and do the production week. So the camera blocking, etc., happens, and they figure out the lights, and this where the lights are going to be for the actors to be best illuminated, and for that they bring in stand-ins. So a lot of people are confused by the word stand-ins, but this is a stand-in. Okay, this is a stand-in shot. That's the whole cast, stand-ins. And so rather than having all the main actors standing while they adjust lights and figure things out for camera, they have the stand-ins there. So that is Mike Duddy, Sarah, Wolfgang, Joe Dornberg, yes, Carmen, and Doris is stand-in, who were there. They were all there for the most part, for the whole, there's the scene in rehearsal. Again, it's backwards. If you're confused on Instagram, it's backwards. That's that moment at the door. And then, that happens, all the notes. Wow. We're just explaining it takes a long time. Let me go back and do some notes, but that's the end of day 3. And that's the middle of day 4. We finish with that run through. Then the actors and everybody has a cast and crew lunch. Then the audience loads in, and then we shoot the show. And so the show is shot in about hopefully 3 hours, 4 hours. And there is the show moments. And this is when, yes, this I showed you already. This would be during the filming. Phil would come in after each scene and try and give any notes as quickly as possible. Now, you have to understand that the actors are brilliant. And so it's not all these big notes of be better, be here. It's so micro-analyzed in a good way that it'll be like, okay, pause here for a second, do this for a second. That it's just these little things that nobody can really keep track of. And that's what a director, that's what you want to happen to get that performance, to have it perfect. Now, here during the run through, this is a rare shot. Here, Patty has come, she's dressed, and she is talking to Tucker and Phil. A note about the script, something about the script she's talking about, and that is the yellow script. Sitting at director's chairs, watching the monitors. That's kind of a very rare thing for the actor to come over, because you're just under the gun. So, and here again this is Phil giving notes with yellow scripts. The show gets filmed, and then they do a curtain call, and everybody says goodnight, and then we usually would go out and drink and at least hang out. A lot of people didn't drink. Peter Boyle didn't drink, etc. Now, let me go back for some more questions before I say goodbye for this week, and I hope that you enjoyed. This is Tom Caltabiano explaining a show. The production week of the show Liars, with supporting evidence in the form of photograph. There is an exterior shot of the McDougal house. It's in Just a Formality when Robert brings Ray to help him get their permission to marry Amy. Oh, Donnell, excellent. I will have to watch that episode and see where that show is. Why are the networks so involved? The networks are so involved because they're writing a check for $1 or $2 million every week. So they care a lot what happens. And so they have person that's known as a current executive. So the way the networks work is they have a development executive who develops new shows. Then once the show is on the air, they have someone called a current executive who covers the show. And one of the things that they do is they're also, let's say, covering King of Queens. So if they go, hey, on King of Queens, somebody drives a car through their house. So we're supposed to get the heads up, like, uh-oh, that's trouble. Or they're doing the scene scene that's similar. So it's a multi-purpose thing of having communication with them, with the network. So they have a big vested interest, as would I. If I was writing a check for $1 or $2 million, I'd want to know, hey, how's things going over there with all of my money? Hello, Taryn David. Was improvisation a key ingredient towards creating an aura of instinctive humor? There was almost zero improvisation. I've touched upon it before, and again, some people are very interested in how to shoot the show. Some people are not so interested in how to shoot the show. Hopefully, I can make it interesting, but you can't really ad lib because, and I'll post a picture. Everybody looks at a script that's numbered by line. So if somebody all of a sudden decides to start ad-libbing, the sound department, the camera department, everybody sits there and goes, uh-oh, where? And then the actor goes, wait, he's supposed to say, okay, Mom, and he just said 9 other things. Like my cue line, so the cameramen have a pad of paper sitting there, and they're looking, Ray says this, and I race to the next position. But Ray didn't say that, and so now I don't know when to race to the next position. The boom operator doesn't know when to move. The switcher doesn't know when to click to the right screen for the audience to see. So ad-libbing, as funny as everybody was on stage, you just can't do it without it having a domino effect that really throws the production a little bit haywire. Okay. Final questions. Oh, and we'll get into basically the show gets edited. We find out at the end, like the next day, Phil might say, hey, great show, everybody. We were 10 minutes over. We go, oh, boy, that's really, we got to cut 8 minutes of the show out. Were there any censors on the set? No. Censors aren't, I don't think, ever on set, maybe in the 50s or something, but usually that's pre, the script is seen and you have to get something approved or not approved. Of course, nowadays you think, wow, what doesn't go through on a show, because the standards seem to have dropped, which is why I think Evers Raymond is still such a popular show, because it is so family friendly. All right, final questions here, everybody. Great questions. I love that. Yes, Bobby, the CBS promo we posted, and for those of you from New York, you'll know, but Shamsky, what Bobby's referring to is the last day of filming, season 1. They were shooting a promo with Shamsky. Shamsky, the dog, is named after a New York Met named Art Shamsky, SHAMSKY, Art Shamsky, who was in, I believe, the Big Shots episode, but he was a member of the Miracle Mets. For those of you that don't know baseball as a sport, the Mets won the World Series in 1969 after prior to that being terrible. So they were the Miracle Mets, and they were on the show. So Shamsky is where we got the name of Shamsky, the dog, Robert's beloved dog, who I think people really do love. All right, final questions here. I will be back. We're going to be talking to some great people in the future, people from wardrobe department. So get your wardrobe questions ready. And then also I wanted to talk to a writer from another sitcom, a Friends writer, and just see how they did it, because I'm sharing with you many of the stories from Evers Raymond, which was a very specific style of writing, and the show was run in a very specific way. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I will see you next week. Thank you for all your great questions. I read every single comment. If I don't reply, I know I will reply at the end of the week. If I missed any of your questions, I apologize. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good week. Enjoy watching Everybody Loves Raymond, and I will see you next week.